LEGO Speedrunning, a niche but growing community, where people put hundreds to thousands of hours into perfecting these games. But I ask myself a question: how did we get here? And I want to answer that question today in this video. So let's take a look at how TT created these beautiful games throughout the years. Traveler's Tales is a game studio founded in 1989 by John Burton and Andy Ingram. The studio quickly started work on popular titles like Toy Story, Sonic, Crash Bandicoot and more. But as we all know, they would later become famous for their work on the LEGO franchise. The beloved games in the LEGO series are all built upon the same formula, even though they include titles like Star Wars, Batman, Indiana Jones, Harry Potter and much more. But how did TT get the rights to make all these beloved franchises a part of our childhood? Well, it all started in 2005 with the release of LEGO Star Wars the video game, which included a LEGO-fied version of the prequel series, which sold over 7 million copies on consoles like PS2, Xbox, GameCube, but also on PC. These days the most popular platform to speedrun these games on is PC, due to the faster load times, more resources, and capability of using a load remover to make the boards more competitive. For this video series we will mainly be focusing on the PC and console releases. A lot of these releases have also been made for the handheld consoles, but they will not be included due to them being vastly different from the other releases. But let's go back to LEGO Star Wars the video game, also known as LEGO Star Wars 1 or its abbreviation LSW1. This game would be made with the help of the publishers at Giant Interactive Entertainment, which held the exclusive right to publish LEGO games, and would later merge with Traveler's Tales to create TT Games Publishing. This new studio was completely focused on making more LEGO games, which they did with the successor to LEGO Star Wars 1, appropriately being named LEGO Star Wars 2 The Original Trilogy, which would include the second trilogy in the Star Wars franchise and would get the studio their first big award, a BAFTA for the Best Gameplay Award in 2006. These games would catch the attention of the Warner Bros. Home Entertainment family, which TT Games would join a year later in 2007. Their next release would be a huge hit. This is probably one of the games you have played as a kid, because it was LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga. This game polished the first two games and put them together with some extra content. A lot of people probably have a fond memory of this game in their childhood. Despite it being similar to the first two games, it would solidify TT Games' position in the industry. The Complete Saga would later become one of the most active and competitive speedruns in the LEGO series, even as far as the game getting their own Summoning Salt video, which probably boosted the activity even more. The game still has an active and lively community to this day. But let's go back to TT. They have now published 27 mainline games for PC and consoles alike. These would be published with the help of LucasArts, Disney Interactive Studios and last but not least, Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment, which they would exclusively work with from 2011 after their 10th LEGO game release with LEGO Harry Potter years 5 through 7. So we now know who TT Games is and how they got started. But what about the games? More specifically, the engines the games are built upon. Throughout the years there have been many changes and improvements to the engine. For example, let's take one of the early games and compare it to one of their latest. You'll see improvements in the graphics, physics, but also a lot of new features and differences in the structure of the game. Despite all these differences, at the very core of these games lies the same engine, called NU2. This is a custom engine built by TT Games and was used even before they started their journey with LEGO. The engine can be traced all the way back to games like Crash Bandicoot, The Wrath of Cortex and Finding Nemo. But with almost every game having a different variant of the engine, how do speedrunners classify these games? Well, they divide the games into three big groups, respectively being named the 1.0, 2.0 and 3.0 engines. The 1.0 engine includes the first 7 games, from LEGO Star Wars 1 up until LEGO Harry Potter Years 1 through 4. This does not mean the games are identical in any way, but we will get into that later. The 2.0 engine includes the next 13 games, from LEGO Star Wars 3 The Clone Wars up until LEGO Marvel Avengers. This leaves the last 6 games to be classified as 3.0 engine. These are the games from LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens up until the release of the LEGO Movie 2 video game. But what about LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga? Well, for now it's the only LEGO game not made on the NU2 engine, but rather the first and probably last game made on the NTT engine due to development issues when building this game. Due to these games being built on different versions of the same engine, there are some skips, glitches and bugs that are consistent throughout multiple games. So let's take a deep dive between every single variant of the engine and differences in the games. Let's start with LEGO Star Wars 1. This version of the engine is a pretty unique and robust one, as it doesn't use XYZ coordinates but has a different system in place to determine the placement of everything. The doors in the game, or transition zones, are also decided by the level streaming, which makes it able to break really easily. If the level streaming loads in too fast, the game will also just crash. Another problem similar to crashing is widescreening whenever you play the game in full screen. But for speedrunning, the most important thing is that transitions don't have collision for AI players. If you combine this with the level streaming issues, you can really easily break this game in half. The next 4 games, referred to with the abbreviations LSW2, TCS, LHA1 and LB1, are the first games to introduce problems with FPS. Every game from now on can easily get broken with high FPS. But FPS in these 4 games can have some negative side effects, like sticky feet, which glues your character to the ground due to having too much FPS. This is because FPS affects jump height in these games. But punching animations also get influenced by high FPS, as it can lead to launches when punching into slopes. But the thing with these 4 games is that lag can also cause the game to break in half. Whenever the game lags, which you can do intentionally by alt-tabbing, the hitbox of your character still moves a bit in the direction you're holding. This can cause for clipping through walls, but also grabbing objects through walls like mini-kits, triggers, gold bricks, whatever you want. 3 out of these 4 games also had some graphical improvements, like the options for enhanced graphics and things like improved shadows, depth of field and textures. These graphics still weren't great, but were a big improvement over the first 2 games. The next 2 games, LIJ2 and LHB 1 through 4, while being 2 different games on their own, didn't really change a lot about the previous games, except them including a builder which you can create your own levels in. The following games, LSW3, LEGO Pirates and LHB 5 through 7, mainly had a lot of graphical differences. This is because they made a new graphics engine. This engine could handle more complex shaders, lighting and textures, which made the games look a lot better. The next 2 games, LB2 and LEGO Lord of the Rings, would include some huge changes. The first change being that they included a hub world in every game now that included a free camera. From now on, the games also had voice lines instead of grunting. The most important thing for speedrunners is that every game on the NU2 engine from now on had VSync launches, except LEGO Movie 2. This would utilize the change in FPS while rolling on a slope to give you exponential height. LEGO City Undercover could also be classified with these 2 games, but there are some small differences that aren't particularly worth noting in this video. After the release of LEGO Marvel Superheroes, also known as LMSH1, there would be some more graphical improvements. Starting from this game, every game would also have the option to run on DirectX 9 or DirectX 11. And the game would also include way more content, like abilities, map size, side missions, gold bricks and much more. Next up are LEGO Movie 1 and LEGO The Hobbit. These can be separated from the rest because they had some big issues with widescreening. The widescreening issue and some other bugs that had been building up throughout these previous versions would be fixed with the release of LEGO Batman 3. This game also introduced some more tech that could be used in multiple games, called scope jumping. This scope jump gives you a triple jump by interrupting the first jump with a scope in animation. Next up is LEGO Jurassic World. This one is placed in a separate category due to it having some different physics and graphics, but would also introduce some unique bugs that aren't helpful to the players. Next up are LEGO Dimensions, LEGO Marvel Avengers, TFA and LEGO Ninjago. These games would once again get a graphical update. Some smaller additions were also made, like being able to pause in a camera pan. The following games are LMSH2, LEGO Incredibles and LEGO DC Supervillains. These games exclusively run on DX11. They also started using way more GPU and the game is less optimized. They would include some better graphics in exchange, because they focused more on publishing these games on the next gen consoles. The engine that DCSV would run on would also be renamed to NTT, which points to them already wanting to redo the engine. They were slowly working closer and closer to the NTT engine, because in the next game LEGO Movie 2 they would handle the physics very differently and would change their usage of transition doors. Their latest release, LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, would actually use the new engine called NTT, but as we said previously, it will probably never be utilized again. Current speculation is that the next LEGO game would be made in Unreal Engine 5. But that concludes our explanation on which engines TT used to make the LEGO series. This also concludes the video. Thank you so much for watching. This was my first time working on a high quality video like this, and I learned how to edit videos through this video, so it would be greatly appreciated if you would maybe leave a like and subscribe, but just watching the entire video already makes my day and is way more than enough. I would also like to thank everyone who helped make this video, even if it's just feedback. I will put the names at the end of this video and in the description, and see ya.